right, we're 3 minutes in. We'll start. Hello, welcome everybody. Welcome to another Green Energy series presented by Solar Oregon. I hope you guys all had a wonderful Saturday morning. We typically have these presentations at the first Saturday of every month from 10 to 11. So if you're trying to block your calendars off for the next Green Energy series, that's how you do it. This Green Energy series is going to be talking about community microgrids, and specifically kind of how to fund the community, how to fund solar through a special funding mechanism that involves the community. So about Solar Oregon. So Solar Oregon's been an Oregon nonprofit for 45 years this year. It had its start in 1979. Man, back then solar was just barely a concept that people have ever heard of, and now you ask anybody on the street whether they've heard of solar, and the answer likely is yes. So what a great progress we've had in 45 years. So Solar Oregon's mission as a nonprofit is to do education, outreach, and community and through the community, and do advocacy work. Some of the activities we do is we host How to Go Solar webinars. We do solar tours. My house was on a solar tour in the past year. And actually, I found my girlfriend through a solar tour in past years. And the reason I found her is because her house was on a solar tour. So these solar tours are quite interesting. You might meet somebody. We also organize solar arts campaigns, and we do peer-to-peer education events such as this one. Next slide. Our organization's very lean and mean. We have 2 staff that work really hard. Everyone else is a volunteer, including myself. Our volunteers are very generous with their time, but to support the operations that I mentioned in the past slide, it usually requires a little bit of funding, and so we would be really grateful if you donate a bit of money to our cause. You can do so through that link or by visiting the Solar Oregon website. Next slide.
There we go.
No, we'll go back one slide. All right, excellent. So some of the upcoming events besides this webinar is on, well, let's see, August. Okay, so anyways, these slides are a little bit old. We can go, feel free to go visit the Solar Oregon website to see what the upcoming events are. Next slide. And so today, for this Green Energy series, we have Julie Williams. So I met Julie way back in 2014, 2015, when I was down at OSU making an attempt at a PhD in energy policy. I never actually finished that PhD, but I had that great opportunity meeting Julie. And at the time, she was promoting her organization, Seeds for the Soul. And I remember during that those years when I was in Corvallis, that presentation and meeting her was one of the coolest things that I took out of Corvallis. And so I'm so glad that she's here today to, again, spread the word about Seeds for the Soul and what it is, and how it has helped grow solar adoption here in Oregon.
Next slide. Are you ready to roll?
Sure.
Edward, thank you. And thank you to Solar Oregon for this platform. It's really exciting. We started Seeds for the Soul in 2012 formally, and it was, very grassrootsy, and it kind of still is. And it's all about relationship building, and we just love what we do. We made a video way back in, I want to say 2016, and it was actually in response to what we're doing, but I'd also just finished the climate reality training with Al Gore, and he had put a call out to all of the people that had been at the training to submit what they're doing in their community. So a friend of mine made this video for us, and let's watch it. It's just a quick intro, and then we'll share more from there. So here we go. I put solar on my home home, and it was such a positive experience. I wanted everyone I knew to have the same experience. It's economically beneficial to the homeowner. It's beneficial to the planet. I really thought everyone should be putting solar on their homes. I teach a great course called Sustainability in Society, because the kids make a real world project to affect sustainability in their community. And a few years ago, they looked at me and said, well, what are you doing? And I went, well, what am I doing? So we created an LLC called Seeds for the Soul, which allows people in the community that just want to see something positive happen with solar energy and sustainability. They give us a zero interest loan. We then find people that want to put solar on their home and give them a zero interest loan.
We started talking about wanting to get solar for this house.
We talked with a solar installation company, and they came out and gave us a bid
that included all of the incentives on it. And we're like, that seems too good to be true, but it's
very tempting, but it was still very difficult financially.
It was hard to come out with the lump sum.
So I was talking with a friend about it one day, and she mentioned, oh, you should check out Seeds for the Soul. It helps people like us, first-time homeowners trying to get started, to get a solar installation.
So the upfront cost, instead of being $10,500, with the help of Seeds for the Soul, it's $1,500.
It was great to know that when we were getting involved with this process with Seeds for the Soul, one of the people that might have been our somebody was someone I knew in town.
We just put solar on our house, and it was so much fun to see how much energy we were making and get that electric bill with zero usage on it is really great. I feel very privileged, and I did have money in the bank, and so I could take that money and put it to work, and it did feel very good. And we were able to carry the model of that activism to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship. Let's put that money to work, because we have Seeds for the Soul.
They actually show you and walk you through everything so that you know that this is real, and now is the time to get solar panels.
Julie Williams told me this thing's going to take off like wildfire, and it certainly has. This thing is creating solar arrays all over Corvallis. It's also creating local jobs. And the solar panels are made here in Oregon. We're standing here in front of a duplex, and the landlord has decided to use solar. But he was only able to do this because Seeds for the Soul is in Corvallis.
We've really seen pretty amazing success in a short period of time, getting public education out there about the accessibility of solar energy in the community. So we're just really excited continuing to be part of it.
We in Corvallis have a very caring community, and we can show that care by giving to Seeds for the Soul that allows us to put solar on people's homes. And then you get it back. What could be better, right? This is a method for Corvallis to put themselves on the map as a solar community.
This community effort to go towards renewable energy is an example to the world. It's like a model that others can follow, and I think can be inspired by it. That's where I have the most hope about this program.
If it can happen anywhere, it can happen in Corvallis. And I love being a part of a community that's thinking ahead, that's thinking about the next generation.
We all need to shift to renewable energy. Fossil fuels are on their way out. Solar, wind, tidal on its way in. Let's be on the cutting edge, Corvallis. Cool, so that's just an introduction to Seeds for the Soul and what we do, and I'll be able to fill that in. And the numbers you saw on there have changed dramatically since 2016, as you can imagine. But Seeds for the Soul is a small nonprofit, and we're a grassroots organization, and our start was just individuals. You saw that woman sharing how she was a sun buddy. She put solar on her home. She had a sizable savings account, and she just said, you can use our savings to help people, and then they get their money back, and we'll share how that revolve loan goes. And then our neighbor to neighbor funding model, it's really like planting, harvesting, and then collecting the seed and replanting. The finances in a revolve loan program work very naturally, like cycles of the earth. So we're super excited about that. So anyway, our first goal is really education. So we want to grow a clean economy, and we use wealth sharing in our model. And the wealth sharing now extends beyond individuals, and the city of Corvallis is engaged, our county is engaged, some faith communities. And so our funding comes from a lot of different places. So we want our community to thrive, and we wanted to, what do I want to say? Like, be a magnet for all the federal and state funding that is out there. So if we can get homes prepared and ready to go, and apply the funding, we can saturate this community with federal funding. So that's part of the goal. Our mission statement is definitely community building, and that's the first thing, and it's the most important thing. This doesn't work without relationships. And so we're trying to build relationships with funding base, with the knowledge base out there, sharing within our community. We specialize now for low to middle income households. And but when we started, we just wanted anyone that was interested in solar to understand solar. And so we do a lot of education. We do at least one event every 2 months, but I would say it's more often than that. We probably do 25 presentations throughout the year in Corvallis, but also Lincoln City, Ashland, Silverton, we're everywhere. Bend, trying to share how this model can work. So education is number one. The other thing that happened is when we engage with a client and we do these educational outreach things, it engages a client for us, but for everyone that uses and needs our funding, we will create 3 that have their own funding and capacity, and they go out on their own and engage a contractor on their own, and we can track that. So education is number one. The next thing is to make things easy for our clients. And so it is confusing. Energy Trust provides an incentive. Oregon Department of Energy provides an incentive. We have impending incentives coming from the Inflation Reduction Act that'll go through ODO. And I think as a common person, when I first started to put solar on my home, I was daunted by that. And so we try and remove that. So the other thing is we're trying to increase the ease. And so when we engage a client, we start with a home energy assessment and we make a plan with the client, and then we take them all the way through the whole funding process through installation, and then we help them get their incentives back. So that was another big goal of ours. Another is to help installers, so especially emerging and BIPOC organizations. The installer carries a lot of capital input to put solar on people's homes. They have to buy all the racking and everything, and they pay their employees, do their outreach for business. I mean, there's just so much that goes into it. So what Seeds for the Soul does is we'll pay the upfront, and then when the incentives come back, we wait and receive the incentives 6, 8, 12 weeks after the fact. It used to be the installer had to wait, and so that would delay them in their next set of purchases, and we're speeding them up, I guess is what I'm saying, is we carry the weight of waiting for the incentives to come back, and we really want to help develop that. We're also engaged in replicating our program. We're engaged with 12 and now 13 different communities around the state, as well as with Electrify Oregon. We collaborate with them, and we're trying to get this model out because it really is the secret sauce. It's the last little missing puzzle piece to help LMI, especially low to middle income households who are experiencing some lower income, to access these really wonderful incentives. But without us, they tell us we never would have been able to do it, or we wouldn't have known we could do it. So we're feeling like we're really moving the needle for solar and for climate action. Our structure used to be leaner than this. I'm a volunteer and have been for 12 years, but we're also reaching the point right now at Seeds for the Soul where we need to legitimize what we're doing by having a CEO that's paid, which we want to attract. I want to remain in a role of promotion and replication and doing those sorts of outreach, but we need to attract someone and create funding for a position where we have a true CEO who's paid. Our financial officer is Elizabeth Wyatt, who also we just brought on in a paid position. She's been volunteering for years. We have a secretary that covers all our marketing and communications, but then our other secret sauce is our program manager, Christy Irvin, who we brought on full-time. And we just hired 3 new employees who are assistant program manager, who helps push paper as well as do home energy assessments. Another part-time home energy assessor. And then we found we had a very blind spot for our community who is Spanish speaking or speaks other languages. And we've done a kind of deep dive on our DEI. And so we just hired a cultural outreach specialist who's a native language Spanish speaker. And so we're super excited to start doing better, broader outreach. We also have an 8-member board, all volunteer positions who help us keep us between the lines and maintain our mission. And we're super excited to do some more work into, our strategic plan coming up for the next 5 years. So that's kind of how our structure looks. Funding for operations is interesting. We were slower. We had community funding before, and I'll explain that in just a few minutes. But in 2018, I don't know if you all remember, but the solar subsidies really died off for a bit. And so we only installed one solar installation that year. And we were debating, we're like, should we exist if the funding is like this? Should we close up shop? Should we do one final big thing? And then we got engaged with the Energy Trust of Oregon, and they were doing a deep dive on their DEI, and they were realizing that only a small sector of people with higher financial capacity were accessing the incentives. And so they engaged with 10 CBOs, much like us. We were one of 10. And we did a case study with them about what they need to do to access lower income households and make everything more accessible. And we found together with these other 9 agencies that they needed to quintuple the funding. So back then you got $1,200 from Energy Trust and a big ODO fund and a tax break. And they realized if you don't have a tax appetite, you can't get that tax break. So they've since then turned tax credits into rebates, and they've increased the size of the rebate for low to middle income households. And that's making it work. And so it was really neat. Also, at the end of that, in 2019, we got to do a 20-home project. It was all Habitat for Humanity homes that were 5 to 15 years old, because they were already making super efficient homes in the 0 to 5 years. And we attracted those clients and put 3 kilowatts on every home for only $1,000 and created a pay-as-you-save payback model. We'll go into that in just a little bit. But that's where our funding comes from for our operations. Is Energy Trust provides all the FTE, and then we get paid for our home energy assessments. And then small donations that are specific for operations. Otherwise, all donations go into the program funds. We've gotten a few grants, humanitarian grants from the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship, and then some other local businesses do some trickling in, which is really helpful. The meat and potatoes, what we do is a revolving loan fund, and we have a slow revolve, and that's the traditional one that we initially did with solar. And at the time when we first started, we just did a call out. I was at a KXL pipeline protest, and someone shoved me with a megaphone out in front of everybody and just said, "Tell them what you want to do." And so it was like, okay, because I'd been toying with Seeds for the Soul in my mind for about 2 years. And in response to that, 8 people contacted me, and before I know it, they're sitting around my dining room table. Most of them I had never met before, or I'd met in passing. And at the end of that afternoon, we had $110,000 to start our first slow revolve. These have specific payback dates and timelines. We have a little success stress because as they come back, we pay them out, and then our fund shrinks. And so then we go back out to get more loans. But happily, I just want to share really quickly another factor in our donation stream. Our funding stream is donations, and over 12 years, we crested $100,000 in donations this year. And donations stay in the revolve over and over and over. And so we were joking that, your mom always told you can't have your cake and eat it too. Well, you can. We spend this money, it comes back, and we spend it again, and it comes back, and we spend it again. And I have an example. When I was working at Corvallis High School, I'm a retired teacher. They did a fundraising campaign, and we were chosen as one of the recipients, and we received $20,000 from them. And we've redeployed their funds at least 5 times over the last 12, or actually we got that in 2016. So the last 8 years. So that 20,000 has done $100,000 worth of work for people. So our slow revolve operates on about a 4 or 5 year payback. Our rapid revolve is new, and the rapid revolve is for super incentivized things, which can be solar, especially as the Inflation Reduction Act comes forward in Oregon. But also we shifted with Energy Trust, we realized if solar isn't humming, and the installers call it the solar coaster of funding because it shifts every 6 months to a year, and you have to revamp what you're doing. To plan us out and make it so we were serving people and still doing our climate work, we started offering anything incentivized for energy efficiency. And so the Rapid Revolve works for the quick return solar and the quick return on incentivized energy efficiency things. So there's no stress success in this one, in that these can be redeployed 3 to 5 times within a year because it comes back so much faster than solar. We call it a no-brainer because this is an easy ask when we're going out to ask for funds, because people can choose how much to put in and how long to put it in. And if they want it back, we can get it back to them in 6 months. So it's just give us 6 months to reel it back in, and then we can hand it back. So we call this one, you can have 5 cakes and eat them too, because we could deploy this 5 times in a year at least. So how does all this work? Right? Let me see if I can get this to go forward. There we go. Well, first of all, we want to cover the why, just very quickly. Being a teacher, the why is really important. You can see that the average US household right here, through your possibly your EV, your heating, your water heating, and just lighting your home up, the average home in the US uses 12 to 24 tons of CO2, fossil fuel energy in a year. So how can we reduce that, and how can we make an impact on our planet and the climate chaos that could ensue, or actually already is? And so, oh, I think I went too fast. Oh yeah, so this is the 12 to 24. If we can get homes to get to net zero, we can reduce that down to 0. And so if you can get 100% renewables, which I have on my home runs completely on solar. We have 2 EVs, the Townie car and the go out of town car. We're shifting to heat pump technology this year, and we have a heat pump water heater. So we have a net zero household right now, especially once we get that HVAC installed. That will save up to 60% of the carbon footprint of the US. Like if we can get every home, and that's why the Inflation Reduction Act is so important. And the key factor that I like to say when I'm talking to friends, they're like, what's your experience with solar in your own home? I'm like, well, my toaster is solar because it runs off my roof now. My microwave is solar. My car is solar. Everything's running off renewable energy in our household. And that's the potential we have. I also have energy insulation from rising costs. And then quickly, my favorite slide in the world, that little pie right there is all of the known resources we have to create power in the world globally. It's what we know is out there, including, and they're filthy. They're not good for us. That's 10,800,000 terawatts. And that is remaining lifetime, what we have left on the planet. The big pie is 1 year's solar radiation. That's 350 million terawatts. And then that little slice is all the other renewable energy systems that are in there. And so why are we not using the solar? And my good friend James Rice Miller, who is now passed, used to say, he's like, people would ask him about nuclear energy. He's like, I love it. And they're shocked. And he goes, because we already have a nuclear energy power plant placed very safely, 92 million miles from the Earth, producing all the energy we need. So that was his great little joke, which I loved. And the stark reality is the planet isn't going to cool next year. We are set with 100 years worth of CO2. As we burn fossil fuels, that CO2 stays with us for 100 years. So what's falling out of our atmosphere right now is what we put in 1924, which wasn't a whole lot. And so that exchange, as we're losing forests, our capacity on the planet to absorb the CO2 we burn is getting smaller. So we have to shrink what we're burning. And solar energy is the best way to do that I can see in a reasonable time frame. So we want to foster that. This is at commercial scale, but solar in 2009 was pretty spendy. It was spendier than gas and coal and wind and everything. But it has dropped now. This is from a 2021 info on this slide, but you can see it is the least expensive new energy out there. So it makes sense, and it's making more and more sense. And I haven't seen solar prices as low as I'm seeing now as far as the panels themselves. The work and the installation in that part has a remaining cost that kind of stays the same, but the panels have dropped significantly. So great time to get solar. So electrification and renewable energy is what Seeds for the Soul is promoting, because electrification gets us off of fossil fuels. And especially if you have renewable energy on your roof. It's also been mandated that Oregon shift to cleaner energy resources. So hopefully by 2040, we're seeing a dip in our energy providers' use of fossil fuels. So anyway, back to solar. Benefits of solar right here, the incentives and tax credits and discounts make it affordable. And so if you have the capacity, go do it. It's the only thing I've purchased for my house that pays me back. My TV doesn't, my car doesn't, my sofa doesn't. They're all for my comforts for usage, but they don't pay me back. This does. It supports clean energy and environmental benefits. It contributes to energy independence. For me personally, down at the bottom, we're saying it's protecting you from escalating energy costs, but also it can insulate us from energy independence from other nations who are providing fossil fuels. That applies a lot of controls on our usage. Well, if we can create our own energy, it's better for us and our economy. We contribute to the local economy in a couple ways. We try and utilize as often as possible our local installers, which benefits them. But also you can see households may save, from solar, a smaller array, a 6 kilowatt array would save them $850 a year. We tracked that for a little while early on, and what our clients tell us is they're spending it on better food, they're spending it on their children and clothing, and they're spending it locally first. So it rotates locally maybe 3 or 4 times here before it goes out to a Visa card or out of here. It adds value to your home. Some studies have been showing off Zillow up to 6% to the value of your home, because coming in, especially depending on the age of your installation, but people coming in can see that their home will run much more efficiently. So it's got, we call these collateral benefits rather than collateral damage. There are numerous benefits that ripple off of solar power. The incentives and tax credits are significant. So the federal tax credit across the board is 30% of the project cost, but that's after you remove these other great benefits. So the Oregon Department of Energy offers for a low to moderate income household, which is very generous, and we're going to show you a table in just a moment, $1.80 per watt, up to 60% of the total cost, or it also caps at 5,000. If you're moderate income and higher, you get 20 cents per watt up to 5,000. People with higher incomes tend to get larger installations to run their larger homes. And so that's still significant. It might cap out at 5,000. If you do not live in a utility provider that is Pacific Power or PGE, you get a little more from Oregon Department of Energy. You get 50 cents per watt, but still capped at 5,000. And that starts to dictate where the sweet spot is for you, where the most money or least money spent to get the most panels. If you live in Energy Trust area, which is Pacific Power and PGE, you can get $1.20 per watt in the PGE area and $1 per watt. And then you can see the caps at 7,200 or 6,000, depending on where you live and who's providing that energy, which is very significant. Energy Trust was mandated by voters, I think it was 2002. The energy providers, PGE and Pacific Power, kind of had a monopoly-ish, and they certainly did not have motivation to do conservation. And why would you? They're a business. And so we voted to have a surcharge attached to all of our bills that then goes to Energy Trust as a nonprofit. And then Energy Trust comes up with numerous methods, not just solar, to try and promote conservation. And since 2018, they have that tiered level of a low to moderate income with extra savings, and then moderate income and also great savings. So if you're moderately incomed in the Energy Trust region, you get $1,000 per home. at PGE, and Pacific Power offers 1,200. So how does this play out? Because that's a lot of information there that I just spewed. First of all, you can look on this table and see if you're income qualified. So if there's 4 people in your home, the combined income of your home is 120,000 or less, then Energy Trust will consider you income qualified, and you do a self-verification with that. Oregon Department of Energy is still generous, but not quite as generous. A 4-person home would have an income of 107,136, and that would make you income qualified for those increased benefits. So now that you can identify yourself, and we show this to everybody, we never ask anyone what their income is. We show them the chart and just say, would you qualify for these things? That is not our interest to find that out. We're going to show you a table. This is for a 6 kilowatt system. 6 to 7 kilowatts is the sweet spot for a lower income household. It's where they maximize the use of the incentives to put the least amount of their own funds in. And so right now, on average, an approximated system cost for 6 kilowatts might be $18,400. If I live in Pacific Power region, right here, Energy Trust will cap out at $6,000. So that right away, you're down to $12,400. Also, the qualification for Odo for that size system would be $5,000 with income qualified. So now you're down to, where am I, $7,400. Then you get a federal tax credit based on that. So your final cost is only $5,180. Well, our clients still can't afford that. And many of them don't have enough equity in their home to get a home equity line of credit to go get that. And we'd still counsel someone to do that if they could. They often have student loans, new mortgage, new babies, new car. You know, they're either young that direction or they're retired, fixed income, and this is impossible for them. This is where we come in and provide a 0 interest loan. And then we also provide a pay as you save model for repayment. So we're trying to have a 0 impact on their monthly budget. So not only do they not have to come down up with the down payment, but we expect them to save $85 a month. They'll pay $85 a month. If we expect them to save $120 a month on the solar and the energy efficiency we do, then that's what we have them pay back. So you can see down here in this example, $108 a month over 4 years will pay that off. And then here's the tricky part. So we provide a loan for this amount. The final cost is this amount, but this is what you have to pay to the installer. And that's including the federal tax credit, which comes a year later, and the rest of that final cost. So, which they will save all of this in their energy savings. So we provide a loan for that full amount. And what happens is in the first year, we write into the contract that they will reap that $2,220 directly on their tax credit. And they agree to pay that to us between tax time, so between April 15th and June 15th. So we require it by July 1st. So that's in their first year's payment, plus they're still paying their monthly. So just under 50% comes back in the first year to our accounts, and it's redeployed. The next benefit for this client is these are warranted panels, up to 25 years warranty. After paying all of this, they will save $13,570 over the next years and put that in their own pocket. If you're outside of Energy Trust region for now and you're income qualified, Odo will give you that $5,000 and your federal tax credit increases because your final payment is higher. When the Inflation Reduction Act, which the Solar for All will be enacted in Oregon, and Oregon just got a huge benefit from the Inflation Reduction Act. They're still outlining the rules, and that should be accessible mid-2025, we're hoping. So this 0 number should go up. You should see something more like this. And it should look more like that if you're outside of the Energy Trust region. But right now, your federal tax credit is higher, your final payment is higher. So again, we would create a loan like this at 0 interest. Your payback is higher because we do need to get it back to the people we've borrowed from. Your federal tax credit is bigger. Your savings over time is a little smaller, but you own the system that's added value to your home. You're doing best for the planet, best for you. So that's what the low to moderate income looks like. If you're wondering what it looks like for moderate to upper income, same starting costs. I kind of wish right now that we'd have done this for a larger system because we're seeing that the MUI population is buying larger systems. But for now, we'll run with this. Gives you a general look. When you're have a higher income, you get a smaller incentive from Energy Trust, so 1,200, so that drops the price. The ODO incentive in the Energy Trust area, because you're getting this, is a little smaller. Your federal tax credit is much bigger. Your final cost is here. You can go to your bank and get a loan for this amount. You'll get this back in your first year. And I think on average your payments might be $250 a month to pay that back over a 4-year period. But the same savings really as you saw without the Energy Trust on the LMI side as well. If you're not in the Energy Trust region, Pacific Power PGE, same starting cost, you won't get that Energy Trust incentive. It's actually better to not be in Energy Trust region right now, sadly for you folks, me included, because ODO offers a higher level at 50 cents per watt, and that you would definitely cap that out. Federal tax credits similar, but you've saved about 2,000 more. Your loan cost is a little smaller, your payments are a little smaller, and you still have a nice savings. Now, like I said, when the Inflation Reduction Act comes in, actually, I don't know how much this will change for MUI, and I'm not even going to venture to say, but it will change, and you can check our website, mid-2025. We're right in there with everybody that's planning all this. We get updates all the time, so we will update and notify as soon as possible when those funds are accessible. And then the big how it works. We take zero interest loans from individuals, City of Corvallis, and then we're hoping to hear this month from the county, Benton County. They want to get in the game too and asked us to do some outreach to their rural communities. Faith communities have provided us zero interest loans and community members. We're also chasing some grants, and which is pretty exciting. This is the first time we've had time to do that because I've gotten to shift my work to those other employees. So that's my job, is to go chase those down. The client installs their solar, they receive their tax credits, and they gradually pay us back. And in that time frame, we pay our Sun Buddies, the people that have provided for us up here. We pay them back 20% per year over 5 years till it's all paid back. And then I showed you before, donations are incredible. They're super powerful because they're in perpetual motion. Every time a donation comes back, we refund it. And I don't know if I had a slide with that example. We don't ever have much more than anywhere from 120 to 170,000 in this fund, but we've done $2.65 million worth of work with that same funding over the last 12 years. So it's a multiplier, it's an amplifier, and donated funds are the best thing for us and for our community. I kind of showed you the rapid revolve. It works exactly the same way, but it's so fast. The super incentivized things now, the Energy Trust, and we're hoping ODO can return to us over a 6 to 8 week period, gets redeployed very quickly. The slow revolve, a fifth of what we have gets redeployed each year because that's about what comes back. And it just depends on our payment schedule. Like the city loans and some of the other loans have a 10-year run, so we don't have to reel it in and pay it back. Some of our other individual loans we're paying back. The revolve, we also will pay back to our funders, but that's been, I think we have 150-ish thousand in there right now, and we've redeployed that 4 times since last August. So that 150,000 now has done $600,000 worth of work, and that will keep growing. So we deploy it, we pay for the equipment, and then we get it back. It's like magic.
I'm an EMT.
I'm gonna go through that really quickly because I want to get to some Q&A. A couple of the things that are the benefits that we implied earlier is a lot of the installers are carrying a huge amount of capital investment in the upfront costs, and they'll ask for half on front of their work and then half at the completion. We just pay that whole thing for the client, and it frees the installer up to access more jobs in the same amount of time. And we get approval from Energy Trust. We also were doing the CHIP DIP, which is the Community Heat Pump Deployment Program that our state legislature provided after the heat dome in 2020. And we're hoping they're going to redeploy a much larger fund that just came in from the IRA. And again, their rulemaking probably take a year to deploy that. But what's happening for low-income households is we're getting them no cost, potentially no cost solar, no cost heat pumps to make them safer so they can heat and cool their homes, no cost insulation, did I say that already? And super low cost windows. It's just, we're upgrading the housing stock in the LMI community, which is pretty awesome, as well as supporting installers. After we get approval, we pay for the whole project, and then we reel it back in, and then we pay back the people who have provided us loans, and that's the rapid revolve. So the biggest thing we do, we remove financial barriers from marginalized populations. We stabilize home ownership, but also the housing stock that is affordable in our community, which is a tough run in Corvallis and some other communities on the I-5 corridor. We improve financial stability for these households. We support local and emerging BIPOC and women-owned businesses and all businesses that are doing this work. We also provide, we were talking last week about there are some installation companies that are very big and they're a little bit predatory. They're trying to saturate and soak up all of these incentives, and so they're jacking up the prices. And so we do some protection on that. We've created relationships with our installers, and they have a beautiful price point, and especially they'll even go further for us with people who are in kind of dire straits and have no heat. And so we also will look at people's bids and help them do some decision points. Everybody picks their own installer, but we have a resource sheet with people that we've worked with before and have had great integrity. So, and then we're bringing into our region. We have a 7 county reach now. We're in Yamhill, Polk, Marion, Benton, Lane, Lincoln, and Lynn counties. And happy to do outreach in those areas. And we're expanding still and trying to create better systems to do that. Seeds for the Soul by the numbers, I'm proud to say since 2012, we've helped 275 households access solar and energy efficiency upgrades. We've deployed 555 kilowatts of solar, hoping to grow that when the Solar for All comes in. And we've mitigated 40,000 tons of CO2. And here's the story on that. Our first 8 years, we did 10,000 tons. Our next 3 years, we did another 10,000. And this year we'll mitigate 20,000 tons of CO2. And I just see that growing. And so, we've got the trifecta of mitigation, adaptation, and then, shifting to a clean energy economy and energy equity. I mean, these are all the things that really drive us to do what we do. And so we're also involved in the Shift Together campaign. We want to hit all metrics. We want all demographics to start doing this work, because it doesn't matter if LMI shifts to cleaner energy, the MUI has to shift with us, and corporate has to shift with us, and rentals. We all have to shift together to make this work. So this is our happy positive. This is where we could be slide and where we want to end up. And then I'd love to take some questions. I ran through that rather quickly, and so I'd love to hear from people if you have questions for us.
Fantastic presentation, Julie. We do have a few questions. One is, do you involve students in this type of work? Since it's
I love that.
Corvallis and OSU and
Yes, I love that question in two ways. And we're piloting that, and it's again part of our growth. We worked with the Green Club at Corvallis High School, and we brought in the home energy assessment that the students can take home and run through with their parents. And it has the energy efficiency equipment questions with insulation, HVAC, water heating, as well as solar. And so trying to get them to identify that and then to reach back out to us. We need more follow-up with that. We're working with curriculum development, and that's what I used to do. I taught sustainability and society for 16 years. And I don't have the same access right now, but that is a great way to get the word out. Another way we've accessed that is just how I engaged with Edward years ago. Some teachers of sustainability, professors at OSU, invite us in to do presentations. And we've had some interns work with us from OSU. We've also interacted with some of the sustainability clubs at Oregon State and trying to get the word out. So yeah, and really how I always dreamed this from the get-go was we're building the airport, and which is a huge endeavor. We're building the structure for young people to come in and get great jobs doing this kind of work. And so we're definitely thinking we're setting up the next generation. And a couple of the people on our staff are that next generation, and that's how they see it too. They want to have an impact that's positive for their world that they're coming into. So that's a great question. Thank you for that.
Yeah, so the next question is about those zero interest revolving loans. For those loans, do you also give those loans to middle income households, or is it only the low income households that receive the 0% 48-month loans?
Yeah, another great question. If you're income qualified, that's what we're sticking with now. We're using the Energy Trust's more generous table.
I see.
We started out, we were counseled to not have an income restriction in our first 4 years. There were some folk that had gotten some grants to do some energy efficiency work for insulation, same sort of format. And they made it so restrictive that they never spent it out. And so those people said, don't put an income qualification. Here's our experience though. Once we explain this to people, they, if they're more in the moderate and upper income, they just look at us and go, oh, we got it. We got this. And they go do their financing and we don't see them again. And so they have it down. And so if someone has a need that's special and different, we will definitely work with them and come see us because we do want to break down the barriers. So, but right now that answer is no.
Yeah, because I mean, I encounter frequently people who have income levels are twice the number of the ODO or the Energy Trust of Oregon thresholds for low to moderate. And even those people with twice the income as those numbers, they are really thinking not doing solar because the upfront cost is just not something that they can surmount. And so it's really interesting to, hear that even people in the mid to upper income, things like heat pumps and solar and kind of other kind of capital and expense intensive projects on homes are still out of reach for them.
Right. And I think when the Inflation Reduction Act gets deployed in Oregon with Oregon's rules, you'll see a shift. And, it's 100% what funding is there and what can we deploy. ODO, spends out at the end of their 2-year run and they have to re-legislate it and re-access it. Inflation Reduction Act is going to come in with 5 to 8 times what they usually deploy. And so that should be able to run for a longer period of time and stabilize the solar coaster of funding, for a 5-year period. I would say to people, get ready, go get bids, go access and find the installer you want and get on their timetable, because when this comes out, it will spend fast. They say it's supposed to run through 2033. But I think it'll spend out faster. And so I would say get yourself on the list for all these things. Also, right now is a great time to do insulation. I got my sister to do insulation on her home, and she wrote back to me. She's like, I'm saving $100 a month because she had really poor insulation. She didn't even know. And so getting your home the most efficient possible before buying your solar, and then don't overbuy.
Yeah, certainly. And for insulation, I always recommend people to get a blower door and do the air sealing first before doing the insulation, because there's also many stories of people getting insulation and picking the lowest bidder, and what results is they get insulation but no air sealing, and that insulation is not very efficient or effective.
Yeah, that's a great call. Yeah, you
Yeah.
want to do those things first. And they cost a little money. It's like getting underwear for Christmas. It's not the fun look at my solar. You don't tell people, hey, check out my insulation and air sealing.
Right.
But you show off your solar
But you use it
panel.
all the time. Yeah, it's very.
Yeah.
So for the slow revolve and rapid revolve loans, do the people who give money to be able to like donate into the slow revolve or rapid revolve funds, do they get any interest yearly back for that investment, or is it really just a generous gift? And
It's a generous gift. Donations definitely have that tax credit.
Mhm.
And so we send our EIN out and we're registered. And so if you just plugged us in on your tax return, it would pull up our EIN. And so, that's the donation stream. People who are providing us a loan at zero interest really are donating the interest they would have earned had it
Right.
stayed in. And the interest rates were so low, it was a no-brainer. It was easy for people to do. Now that they're starting to come back up, I don't know if you can claim the loss of interest on this or not as a donation. I don't know how to do that. Maybe we should research it. But right now, it's just out of the goodness of your heart. That's why we call it wealth sharing.
Hmm.
And so, and I did it myself to start it up. I pulled everything I had, and the first two projects were funded by me.
Yeah.
And it was a little tenuous and a little scary, but it felt like the right thing to do at the time to motivate people to make this move.
So I'm one of the questions is how to get more people involved in donating to Seats for the Soul for this reason, because even if people are donating their interest from what they could be investing their money into, the knowledge that it's a revolving fund, so therefore that money can be used over and over again, so that it can fund millions of dollars of solar installation for just really quite a modest amount of donation. That's very appealing to many people and organizations and Solar Oregon members. So how would they get involved with giving some money for this, either the slow revolve or the rapid revolve fund?
I would say reach out to me on email through our website, and it's julie@seedsforthesoul.org. Um, and then we'll interact and we'll discuss what's best for you first, and then figure out how to do that. And we've received see, I was supposed to look this up. It's that directed payment when you have to start removing from your IRA and your retirement funds at age 71 and a half.
Yeah, now it's
Um,
72, but anyways, yeah, some people when they receive those funds, it's they've already been they've already budgeted with either their 401ks or their pensions or whatever, so that additional money is really not necessary for their livelihood. And for some people that donating that money is really the best use of that money.
it keeps them in their certain tax zone. Yeah, and
Hmm.
that's where we've received quite a bit of funding, and it'll come directly from their financial facility. And then we just receive, honestly, checks in the mail. There's a PayPal button on our website. We're in a huge website redo that will be happening very soon. Right now that button's accessible, but PayPal takes its little chunk. We're trying to shift that so that's a little more beneficial to a nonprofit. But really just reach out and talk with us, and we're
Okay.
happy to, yeah.
Because one of the questions is, how can an organization like Solar Oregon work with you? And I think there may be an interest in Solar Oregon doing some fundraising activity to provide a lump sum for donating to a slow revolve or rapid revolve fund.
Oh yeah, that would be super beneficial to us and to our clients. That's um yeah, we have extra energy for our clients when we go into these households, and we're seeing what people are trying to live in and survive in, and that we
Oh,
can come in
absolutely. It's
and provide.
even
It's a
people who are not homeless that have housing, some of that housing quality is really quite bad.
yeah, yeah. And so that, it keeps us awake at night. It's good. It's motivating. You can't leave that house in your brain when you come home and start trying to work for them and figure out how to get their home more efficient and renewable
Hmm.
energy. Yeah, please, any outreach, and we would love to work with Solar Oregon, in any way possible, education and outreach.
Fantastic. We have one more question, which is when you get the loan back, so like when it's the question is when you get your loan back, is it already counted as a charitable loan? So
No, if
okay,
it's in the loan form, there's no charitable benefit to the loaner. So
I
they just
see.
get their money back. So it'll come back within 5 years, and yeah, it didn't sit in your account and make, some form of interest. We tried that. We kept trying to figure out how to do that, but then the burden always came back to, because our funding stream is so streamlined, the burden would kept coming back to the low income people we were trying to help. And so we didn't want to put an interest burden on them. And so we're just hoping people have big hearts and want to see this action happen. So there's no real benefit to a loaner except that you're helping someone purchase a solar array and you get your money back.
Fantastic. There's a few more minutes, and what I want to do is we didn't do a good job doing a plug on the next upcoming events. So what I want to do is use my screen share and share the events that are upcoming. So an upcoming event coming soon is on August 7th. It's a actual in-person solar social event. It'll happen at a restaurant slash community space called Place to Be. It's at 1661 Southeast 3rd Avenue. And this will be on August 7th at 5:30 to 7. If you're able to join, you can chat with fellow solar aficionados. Great opportunity. So looking forward to seeing if you can attend. And then some other events is on September 7th, we'll have a Green Energy series on solar kiosks. And that's a interesting project. We'll give you more information about that Green Energy series presentation. On October 5th, there's the Go Zero Energy Tour. That's the home tour that I was mentioning about. A few years ago, my home was on the tour, and then a few years later, I met my girlfriend at a home tour where she was giving her home on tour. And this year, there's 5 homes on tour throughout Portland, and they're also always really interesting homes, and the owners always have really interesting stories. So it's one of our larger events that we host every year. So we really hope to get a lot of interest and attendees for that event. We'll also give you an update on the November Green Energy series. The October Go Zero tour will, because that event is taking place, we will not have a Green Energy series in October. So November Green Energy series, it'll be a TBD for now. So anyways, those are the kind of upcoming events. We hope to see you there. And let's check to see if there's any more questions that came in. No, there are not. So anyways, we're at the top of the hour already. So thank you everybody who's come to this Green Energy series. Thank you so much for Julie for presenting. It's always great to connect back with you and learn about what Seeds for Solar has done. And we look forward to connecting more. Specifically, like I really do hope that Solar Oregon will do some sort of fundraising event and be able to gift Seeds for the Soul just a bit of money and see it continue to get used over and over again to get heat pumps and insulation and solar on more people's homes, because that's just a great idea.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much to Solar Oregon for this platform and everybody who came. Really appreciate your time.
Awesome. All right. Well, we'll break. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you later.
Take care.
Take care.